Ladies and gentlemen, to address you next, we are delighted to invite the Regional Vice President, Asia and Pacific of IFC, Mr. Alfonso Garcia Mora.
Ayubowan, Salam Alaikum. Honorable Minister, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is an honor for me to speak at the Sri Lanka Investment Forum today. I would like to thank the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce for giving me this opportunity. It is a pleasure to join you in what I understand has been built as Asia's first and largest virtual investor forum. My warmest congratulations to the Board of Investment, the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, and the Colombo Stock Exchange for organizing such an important event. All of us in IFC, the International Finance Corporation, are proud to be a knowledge partner for this event. Sri Lanka has been a development success story, with the lowest poverty rates in the South Asia region, best human development indicators, almost universal access to basic services, and highest per capita income in South Asia. Sri Lanka's economic performance since independence has been a success. The key drivers of growth in the last decade have been the favorable export performance of the apparel, garment, and tourism sectors, as well as the boost to consumption, partly on account of remittances and post-war reconstruction. Having said that, though, the recent growth deceleration, which predates the COVID-19 pandemic, highlights structural weaknesses in the economy. The Sri Lanka economy started entering the deceleration phase in 2013, with GDP growth in the 5 years to 2019 averaged at 3.7%, compared to 6.6% in South Asia. Market entry barriers on account of the strong presence of state-owned enterprises and conglomerates, limited access to land and to finance, and high cost of electricity are key factors contributing to this trend. Furthermore, the investment climate is affected by macroeconomic imbalances and build-up of domestic and external debt. Ladies and gentlemen, we are meeting in difficult times. The specter of COVID-19 continues to plague us all. It represents a significant challenge to governments and people globally, including in Sri Lanka. The pandemic has disrupted every aspect of life, from the economy to the home. In 2020, Sri Lanka's economy contracted by 3.6%, the worst performance on record, as is the case in many countries fighting the pandemic. The outbreak has exacerbated an already challenging environment of low growth and fiscal pressures. As many of you are aware, important sectors of the economy, like tourism, construction, and transport, were hit especially hard by containment measures. The textile industry was badly impacted by collapsing global demand. Looking forward, the proactive measures of the government to mitigate the impact of the pandemic have proven effective. As the World Bank's latest Sri Lanka Development Update highlights, the country is now on the road to recovery. Sri Lanka's economic growth is expected to recover to 3.4% in 2021, reflecting the base effect and foreign direct investment inflows. Clearly, though, as Sri Lanka moves on the road to recovery, challenges remain. Increased public expenditure and lower revenues amid the pandemic have contributed to a deterioration of the fiscal situation. Public debt remains high, almost 110% of GDP in 2020, and is rising. Sri Lanka's external balances also remain precarious. It needs to attract between $4 to $5 billion of foreign capital every year until 2023 to meet external financing needs. The rapid aging of the population poses an additional constraint on the country's future growth performance. And more than 10 years after the war, regional disparities remain pronounced. Now, more than ever, Sri Lanka needs a growth model that provides for a much greater role for the private sector and which promotes global integration. So, this conference is extremely timely. A greater role for the private sector is crucial to boost growth and enhance productivity. It is also important to attract the investments necessary to propel Sri Lanka back to an upper middle income country. Sri Lanka's private investment at 16.5% of GDP on average between 2015 and 2017 was significantly below levels in India, 20%, and China, 30%. To meet external financing needs, Sri Lanka needs to attract greater foreign investment, particularly in sectors that could increase global integration of the economy. Key sectors would be knowledge-intensive manufacturing and agriculture, as well as IT-enabled services. To this end, Sri Lanka needs to become a more open economy. From 2000 to 2017, trade as share of GDP has declined from almost 90% of GDP in 2000 to 53% of GDP in 2017. At IFC, we have been working with our colleagues in the World Bank, talking with public and private sector players, as well as looking at the numbers to assess the opportunities for and constraints to private sector-led growth. It is through a process called the Country Private Sector Diagnostic, or the CPSD. A key aim of the process is to develop recommendations for reforms and policy actions to mobilize private investments and drive solutions to key development challenges. For Sri Lanka, the upcoming CPSD suggests a three-pillar growth strategy. The first pillar that we have identified for Sri Lanka going forward is to support what we call the Islands of Excellence. There are three industries of focus. Number one, ICT. The Sri Lanka's market leaders in ICT have been tapping into markets in the United States, the United Kingdom, and elsewhere in the Asia-Pacific region, as well as new markets in Africa, Canada, and the Middle East, for example. Number two, resource-based industries. It is about developing high-end agribusiness, trademark specialty products. It is already proven, as shown from the development of rubber-based products such as tires for heavy equipment or surgical and household gloves, or coconut-based products, in a world where demand for coconut-based products is growing. Number three, light specialized manufacturing. Companies are producing parachutes, high-tech sailing boats, sensors and cables for the auto and aerospace industries. There are also high-end textiles. These have driven growth in recent times and have the potential to drive it further. These are all sectors that do not systematically compete on price, even though the relatively low cost of the workforce remains attractive compared to competitors. But rather, they demonstrate the ability of firms in Sri Lanka to provide value addition to their customers by leveraging unique, high-quality products. They have in common the ability to adopt innovative production techniques and customize it to clients' needs. Whether it be in specialized clothing, engineered textiles, like parachutes or harnesses for the aircraft industry, the leaders in these industries are showing their high level of sophistication and product quality. It shows that Sri Lanka already has the elements of being a knowledge-intensive player on the world stage. These pioneers offer a solid base on which Sri Lanka's industry could build, targeting regional and new international markets. The second pillar of private sector-led growth is to strengthen the innovation ecosystem to enable dynamic industries. To realize more fully the potential of producing value-added goods and services, public policies supporting innovation must be less fragmented and more oriented toward commercial efforts. This will require stronger links between public policies and the private sector. A more diverse array of incentivizing schemes and publicly funded facilities could be utilized to provide space for innovation, as well as better links between university research and commercial use. The third pillar of the upcoming CPSD focuses on scaling up tourism. This would be, of course, as soon as recovery from the COVID-19 crisis permits. Tourism has been one of the most important sectors in the Sri Lanka economy and a significant employer. While the timeline for recovery of the tourism sector remains unclear, we can be encouraged by the fact that historically, tourism has recovered quickly following setbacks. Tourist arrivals in Sri Lanka had almost normalized by December 2019 after the Easter Sunday terrorist attacks. In developing a new post-COVID-19 vision for the tourism sector, we believe Sri Lanka needs to focus on higher value tourism products. Branding should not be low cost or budget. It should instead take advantage of the country's natural resources and promote nature-based and wellness tourism. Crowding in the private sector will be vital to boost tourist accommodation. Tourism is also important because of its inclusivity. It is the sector that is most geographically diverse. It has the largest share of small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, and registered a significant growth in the female employment in the last couple of years. And finally, in a world where the impact of climate change looms large, mitigation of the impacts also need to be integral to future private sector growth, though an increase in renewable energy use, a key objective of the energy, urban and transport sectors. Building on the findings of the CPSD, IFC management has recently approved IFC's country strategy for Sri Lanka, for fiscal year 22-26. Supporting growth-enabling sustainable infrastructure is a key element. We want to demonstrate the effectiveness of public-private partnership solutions for generation by bidding and awarding of a renewable energy park, and then take it further by seeking to replicate a similar model in other infrastructure areas, while collaborating with the World Bank to develop an enabling environment for bankable infrastructure projects. And bearing in mind those islands of excellence in sectors which have the potential to grow and contribute to export earnings, we are also looking to support innovation for growth. That means we are looking to investments in agri-based and niche manufacturing sectors, including ICT services, support for the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and an umbrella tourism platform to invest in mid-market niche players. IFC is also looking to deepen social and financial inclusion by seeking to provide risk capital supporting growth of SMEs. We are also collaborating with the World Bank to maintain and strengthen the stability of the financial sector and invest in demand-driven products to catalyze digitalization for financial institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, IFC's track record in Sri Lanka goes back over 50 years. Our first investment of $3.25 million in the country's textile sector came at a time when private sector financing was not readily available. Just over 50 years on, IFC remains a key private sector development partner, having invested $1.6 billion in some 30 projects across the country. Our portfolio today stands at close to $500 million. Over the years, IFC has been a pioneering investor in many fields. In infrastructure, there was the South Asia Gateway Terminal, first public-private partnership-based container terminal in the country. Today, the CAGT offers fast, reliable, and efficient shipping services on par with Singapore and other ports serving major east-west shipping routes. We co-invested with Orix of Japan to pioneer leasing financing, now a prominent financing solution for SMEs. IFC's investment in Fitch Ratings Lanka in 2000, a first-of-its-kind investment for the country, enabled Sri Lanka financial institutions and corporates to access the global financial markets. IFC made its first direct investment in wind power in Senok Group to boost the generation of renewable energy and increase the country's power sources to help address the growing concern of climate change. Subsequent advisory work with private sector banks helped build local capacity to evaluate and finance wind projects in Sri Lanka. And our advisory services and investments supported the transformation of Sri Lanka's largest private microfinance institution, Sanasa, into an SME and retail bank to expand into the much-needed MSME financing in rural areas. The cooperative-based Sanasa Development Bank has been recognized as the fastest-growing SME bank. In Sri Lanka, we learned through experience that straitjacket investments were not necessarily an effective solution. Instead, we needed to be innovative and respond to the needs of people and times. In May 2009, following the three-decade conflict, many displaced people were ready to start fresh, but they had no home or assets. IFC then helped one of its advisory clients, Lanka Orix Microcredit Private Limited Company, LOMC, to introduce a mechanism of group lending and did not need collateral. Today, LOMC has made its name in the global microfinance arena with its unique business model. I would say we have identified critical needs in the country to enable or catalyze private sector development. We are also a longer-term player, and we hold our investment long till our role is accomplished. In our experience, impactful demand-based investments with well-governed partners will have an exit option either through private placements or the stock market. Beyond investments, IFC has worked with its clients and regulators to develop innovative solutions. IFC provided advisory support to the Credit Information Bureau. We also helped in the development of the Secure Transactions Registry and gave advisory support to implement integrated risk management systems in banks. We also work with the central bank to help craft Sri Lanka's first national financial inclusion strategy and the sustainable finance roadmap. Given the impact of COVID-19, we have also given support through IFC's Global COVID-19 Fast Track facility. with the aim of helping small and medium businesses deal with the pandemic's adverse impacts. IFC support during the pandemic extended beyond the global facility. During the height of COVID's first wave in Sri Lanka, IFC invested $175 million in John Keel's holdings to expand its supermarket chain in the country and help fund expansions or refurbishment of hotels in both Sri Lanka and the Maldives, where tourism is vital. Some of you may not be aware, but we also have IFC's largest standalone country-based gender program here in Sri Lanka, which is designed to close gender gaps in the private sector while improving business performance. The Women in Work program, supported by the Government of Australia, works towards enhancing women's participation in the private sector labour force, improving women's access to finance and strengthening business linkages for women in supply chains. We recently concluded a 2-year partnership with 15 of Sri Lanka's largest companies, helping them to create more equal and respectful workplaces. The partnership led to 12,000 more women being employed by those companies. There was also a 1/3 increase in the share of women on boards of directors of participating companies. The country's first ever national financial inclusion strategy, which was launched in March, also had a strong focus on closing gaps between women and men in financial services. IFC remains committed to delivering tangible development impact for the people of Sri Lanka, creating a roadmap to drive growth which is inclusive, prosperous, and above all, resilient. In fact, we are looking at a pipeline of about $900 million over the next 5 years, so we look forward to helping spur private sector growth in the country. Challenges are inevitable, as we noted, but Sri Lanka has immense potential to overcome these challenges and transform them into better opportunities. We are committed to help to harness this potential, create opportunities, and help build a more prosperous, inclusive economy, and most importantly, helping Sri Lanka emerge stronger from the pandemic. Thank you very much for your time today. In closing, I would like to end with a video focused on PickMe, IFC's $2.5 million equity investment. In this local ride-hailing startup signal our entry into the country's venture capital arena. PickMe's role in providing an emergency lifeline during the COVID-19 lockdown by operating delivery fleets to assist people stranded at home has been well recognized, so it is worth highlighting.
මම උදේ 4ට පාන්දර 4ට තමයි නැගිටින්නේ. නැගිටලා උයනවා. උයලා ඉවර වෙලා පහමාර වගේ වෙනවා උයලා ඉවර වෙනකොට. ඊට පස්සේ බුදුන් ඇඳලා තමයි මම දවස් පටන් ගන්නෙ. අම්මලාටත් කැම ටික දීලා දුවලා ඇස්ති කරගෙන ඉස්කෝලේට දාන්න 6යි කාලේ වෙනකොට ගෙදරින් පිටත් වෙනවා. ඉස්කෝලේට දුවව දානවා. ඊට පස්සේ මම පික්මි ඇප් එක ඔන් කරගෙන පික්මි යනවා.
I need to get rid of this. Yes. When the news struck that there's going to be a curfew tomorrow, obviously it was very scary at the beginning because we were not so sure what this virus is. All our drivers come from all over the country.
අපි ආරක්ෂා වෙන්න ඕන. කොවිඩ් කියලා අපි ගෙදර නිකන් හිටියොත් අපේ ළමයින්ට කෑම නැහැ. දැන් ඔය පික්මි එකේ යනකොටත් මේ කට්ටිය අහනවා ගෑනු කෙනෙක් වෙලා පුළුවන් ද ඔය වැඩේ කරන්න බය හිතෙන්නේ නැද්ද කියලා අහනවා. මම ඇත්තටම මම බය නැහැ කිසි දෙයකට. මම හරි ආසයි. මිනිස්සු අඳුනා ගන්න ලැබෙනවා. විවිධ ප්‍රශ්න ඇවිල්ලත් තියෙනවා. ඒ ප්‍රශ්න වලට ඒ වෙලට උත්තර හොයලා ඒ ප්‍රශ්න ඉස්සනගෙන මම එනවා. මම බය කියන දේ ඇත්තටම මගේ හිතේ නැහැ.
For us as a company, we were all working from home because everyone was basically running the country's transportation in their bedrooms, right? And then we spoke to the relevant authorities, and they gave us the green light, because there was so much of demand, because people wanted these essential goods delivered. You don't know about this virus well enough to do this, right? You go to merchants, you go and deliver things at homes. You don't know where this virus could sort of infect you.
අපි හැම වෙලාවෙම අපි පරිස්සම් වුණොත් අපිට ජීවිතේ ජය ගන්න පුළුවන්. බය වෙලා මුල්ලකට වෙලා හිටියොත් ජීවිතේ ජය ගන්න අමාරුයි. ඒ වුණාට හිත හයියයි නම් පුළුවන් ඕනෙම දෙයක් කරන්න.
අපිට බය දැනුනේ නැතුව නෙමෙයි. අපි බය දැනුණා. නමුත් අපි අර පාරේ වැඩ කරලා අපි හිතුවේ සේෆ්ටි එක. බය කියන එක නෙමෙයි එතන හිතුවේ. සේෆ්ටි එකත් එක්ක අපි වැඩ කරා.
So we considered them like superheroes. In fact, we went and even changed the icon on our app as a superhero.
බය නැතුව අපි වැඩ කරාම ඉතින් ඒ මිනිස්සුන්ට බඩු මල්ල ගෙනහිලා දෙනකොට ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉතින් ගොඩක් පින් දීප්ති ඔයාට පරිස්සම් වෙන්න එහෙම කියලා තමයි කියන්නේ. මට හිතෙන්නේ මේ මිනිස්සු ඇත්තටම බඩගින්න හිටියේ නැහැ කොවිඩ් එකේ. අපි කරපු සේවාවත් එක්ක අපි දැක්කා මිනිස්සු පුළුවන් තරම් වෙනදටත් වඩා කෑම එකතු කරලා ස්ටොක් කරගත්තා. මම හිතන්නේ අපි දිනුවා අපිට දෙයක් දැනුණා අපි දෙයක් කරා කියලා අපිට සතුටුයි.